lifestyle, how does it help society? You follow? So if we cannot get to the point where we can see that, my friend, then we have a problem. And so we told you before, and I'm continuing to talk about that we've all been victim of the sin, the problem that we had since the beginning. And so that sin, the original one, kind of like a catalyst, which means it precipitates all the sins that we see happening after that. I'm not talking necessarily about one thing. I'm talking about all the things that are wrong, that are evil, that are detrimental. I'm talking about everything else. Since we are in the study of, talking about sexual perversion, that's where we are right now. Some people can come up and talk about money. I'm not talking about money now. Please. It's not like I'm trying to pick on one and leave the others. There's so many things we can talk about, but I am talking right now specifically about this type of sins. Remember, I'm not talking about sin, S-I-N. I'm talking about sins, S-I-N-S, the plural form, which gave us, a range of, all type of, oh my goodness, despicable thing that's out there in this world. Now, the idea is not so much of to trying to clean up this world, but it is a call on each soul on this earth, to be mindful of the reality of each of our lives here on this earth, to try to do the right thing, just like I am trying to do that every single day. Not to do the right thing, in your own way, in the way that you see things, in the way that you perceive it to be right, or in the way that according to your preference or to your tastes. But it is to do the right thing according what's been given. The reason we're in this trouble right here is because God have, from the beginning, defend and forbidden, to the man to go and eat the fruit, the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, because he didn't want them to know, what's right and what's wrong, the knowledge of good and evil. Didn't want them to do that. And since you decided, because God is giving you the choice, giving you the opportunity to make the choice for Him, you decided, okay, you don't want to go with God's, encouragement. In other words, way. You choose your own way. But how would you know if it's okay or not if God didn't put in you the ability to make your own choice? And I think this is what we see happening here. Don't get me into this category of saying, okay, I am homophobic, I am this, I'm that, and that. This is not what I'm talking about at all. I'm not going to come to anybody's door and knock at the door and say, trying to make you feel bad. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to write any books about that. I'm not going to be talking to you about that at all. I'm not even, calling anybody specifically out concerning that. I just want to use your own free will. But like I've said to you, just because somebody doesn't have a headache doesn't mean they don't need to sell Excedrin or acetaminophen or Advil, Aleve, Tylenol, that kind of over-the-counter, medication. It means that should you have that one day, you have a need for it, they'll be available. And as a matter of fact, you may not need it right now, but there's somebody somewhere else who needs it. Just because you don't need it now doesn't mean the other person else I don't need it. You see, the places that they have the AA meeting for those who are alcoholic, those who are having those, centers that they use to help people with drug addiction and other things, doesn't mean just because you're not going through this, they don't need to have those places, in place. You understand what I'm saying? I'm doing this lesson just for education purposes and trying a way to see if I can help people who need help. But it's not my place to make the decision for you, my friend. Even if I wanted to, I could not. See, it's not me. I have to make decisions for my own self, just like you have to. But the reason I have made the decisions is because there are other people out there, such as myself today, who have been talking or I've been teaching, or we've been reading books, concerning those things, that I have found, help through them and get me to a place where now I'm in a position that I want to help other people too, as a result of being helped by others. So it's not about you trying to feel like, I'm in my little comfort zone, you're trying to annoy me and you want to destroy me. No, I'm not trying to destroy your life. I am trying to help as much as I can if you need my help. If you don't need it, there's one thing you can do. You can turn off the TV. You can even give me a thumb down if you want. It's not going to change anything. You understand? You can even, what you do, just don't watch the program. But don't just try to bash it down so other people may have a need for it, so they won't be, benefit from that. Please let it be, and then leave the rest for God. Because I do not go out there and trying to destroy those industries out there promoting all these things. I can only talk about it, like you see, cigarette and alcohol beverages and all those. I talk about those things, but I'm not in position to make it my goal to go to destroy those industries. You follow? Because I know there are other people, this is how they make their living, this and this. Well, if you ask me, is it a good way to make a living? I probably would say no. There are other ways, but these people, they make the choice to make a living that way. That's a choice. But that doesn't prevent me from talking about, the danger. Even the cigarette company, they put that on the labels. Of a cigarette pack that's saying, okay, this may cause cancer. It's up to you to listen to them or not. But if you don't listen, then they said then I'm not responsible because I told you that this can, cause cancer. So me, I'm not even in the industry. I'm outside, so how much more? My counsel will be, better to help you out because of the fact that it will kill you eventually. When you have a bad habit. Remember, the emphasis is in the bad habits. There are some good habits out there. You got to find some good habits. But when you're in the business of bad habit, it will kill you eventually. And I think that's where we are right now, especially when talking the area of sexual sin, because sexual relationship is not a bad thing in and of itself. It's a good thing. We are sexual entities. Every human being is our sexual entities. You came from a sexual standpoint. You understand? And your one of the roles that you have to in this earth is also to reproduce after yourself. So therefore, if you're a woman or a man, you will be reproducing after you. You follow? But you can do it on your own, or you can do it with a person of the same sex. Got to be a person of different sex from you. That's how it works. And that's what I'm trying to teach you. You follow? I'm not here to tell you, okay, man, go live your life however you want. That's not cool. That's not cool at all. And I tell you that is a lie. If I tell you that, it's a lie. You cannot do that. I have to teach you the right way. Like I've said, if you're sitting behind the wheel driving, you don't want your eyes to be somewhere else. You need to be right here on the road so you can see where you're going, so that you can protect yourself and the person driving alongside with you and others out there. Don't get involved in an accident and create problems. You follow? So it's important, those teaching, not necessarily for to hurt other people, but it is important for clarity, for purification. So I am bringing it to you so you can see what I'm saying. I have told you that we have been a victim of this sin problem that happened in there. Now, there's this idea, like I have talked also last time, about adult being an adult. So therefore, because you're an adult, you can do whatever you want. Matter of fact, the Bible tells us, specifically I have read from this book, and the other book I've told you, that being an adult is a great privilege, a great responsibility. I have said, because of the so much things going on, so much wrong around us, for a person to live all the way up to 18 years old, that's a great accomplishment. Because centuries ago, you could have been killed and murdered, and destroyed before you reach the age of 18. So now you are 18 years old, or you are 20, you pass that threshold. You call yourself an adult. and you feel like, okay, this is the age I wanted to be, and you are in that place now. But the thing is, with privilege come also responsibility, and then there's another one that's in the middle. With from privilege to responsibility, there's one thing called accountability. It's right here. But sometimes we're looking at privileges only. We don't want so much about responsibility. We want to talk about responsibility only if you do something wrong. You said, well, I know, I recognize I've done wrong. I'm so sorry for it. It's easier for you to say, I'm sorry for something that you do, instead of maintaining a lifestyle that keep you from saying these, 3 words, I am sorry. Do you follow? There's nothing per se wrong by saying I'm sorry, but there's something better if you take responsibility, in a sense, what you've been given as privilege, so you don't have to say I'm sorry. And I think that's what's happening with a lot of us in this earth. So we think that it's okay to say sorry as long as you say it and you ask for forgiveness, then it's okay. But you do not realize that there is such a thing that you could do, so you don't have to say I'm sorry. Not in a very arrogant way, you done it, that's it. No, we're not talking about negativity here. We're talking about positivity. Everything goes the right way. You follow what I'm saying? Just like if you were to be stopped by a police officer on the street, and they come, he or she comes to you by saying, oh, you've done something wrong, you violate such a law, and you're gonna ask, what law did I violate? And then when they cite it for you, you realize, oh, I didn't do such a thing. You follow what I'm saying? Now you're gonna have somebody to represent you. They take up your case to fight it because you know for sure that you didn't do something that they accuse you of. Okay? But now if you've done it, then you're going to say, okay, I'm glad to take responsibility. But what about responsibility for not violating that law too? That's where I am with you. I'm trying to teach you how to take responsibility not to violate God's law. I'm not trying to make you feel bad after you violated, God's law, and then now you want to live your life as if nothing ever happened. I'm not in that place. I don't want to go there, to tell you the truth. All I want to do is just to keep you from falling into that place. You know what I mean? So I don't want to come to you to make you feel guilty. You already know you're guilty. I want to keep you from falling in that place. Follow? So the word adults means it comes with a privilege. The privilege of being an adult. Your responsibility is to maintain that lifestyle that is right. Not to go out there and do something that's wrong in the name of being an adult. Matter of fact, you should be ashamed of yourself when you do something wrong. Because what do we do? That's the reason why we don't see babies, being father of other babies or mothers of other babies. You see, they take adults to be that way. See, when two guys come together and say, okay, I'm going to start a family. I'm using this analogies because I'm studying this right now, okay? Just so you understand. When two guys come together, adults, of course, they're probably in their 30s, even 40s and more. And they said, okay, I'm going to adopt some kid to bring into our family. Now, in the eyes of everybody, they might say, oh, this is a noble thing because they're taking a little, innocent kid, and then they're going to, care for them, they're going to provide for them, they're going to do this and that. But is that your responsibility? I mean, let's be serious. That's not your responsibility. You're trying to prove people in the world that I'm doing some good thing. And then some of you, like I have said at the outset of this program today, that you don't see the poor people, those who don't have a platform, those who do not have, millions in the bank, coming on television and do that. No. Who do you see? Those who have the celebrity, status, those who have so much money, those who have a platform, they are the ones who come on television to show the world, oh, look at what we're doing. We're two men together. We're two women together, and we start a family. Here's our beautiful kid. Take picture and show the world. Man, this is nonsense. Just because the fact you have money doesn't mean what you're doing is right. Do you understand what I'm saying? Just because you have, the celebrity status doesn't mean what you're doing is right. Because if somebody who didn't have the money, who didn't have the celebrity status, who didn't have the platform that you have, they do exactly the same thing. You'll be the first who said, okay, who does this person think he is? Who does this person think she is? That's why you'll be the first to criticize them. You probably even, write books against them. Do you follow? And that's where we are, because we see a lot of people out there, they clap for things that I have said last time. They don't clap because of the things that you're doing. They clap because of you show braveness. You show that kind of, bravery of coming out to let people know what you're doing, what you've been doing behind closed doors. Now you want to do it openly so everybody can see. And now you go to the link, further to bring an innocent kid into that reality of your nonsense. Reality, if I put it this way, so that you can show the world that you're doing something good. No, my friend. There's nothing wrong for you to take care of a kid. But there's such a thing wrong also to call two men together to have a family and put the kids, which you didn't produce, because you have money, you want to raise them as if they were your kid. That's where the problem is. You follow? It's not a problem for you to raise a kid, to help them. Like we can see, we have orphanages. You see other people, their parents, they care for the kids, they raise money, they do that kind of stuff. This is good. This is good. But now if the same people were to say, okay, I have two men or two women together, and then we're raising it as if they're kids, they put their own names and whatever, this is the problem. Because you're doing something out of order here. That's not the order was given. There's not the path to follow. God's never given the command, because he said, shall a man leave his father and his mother and cleave to his wife? Two different spelling, two different meanings. Okay, so the idea of you coming together as two men to a family, this is not part of God's program. And then don't bring it to God for God to accept it. God is the one who makes the menu. You got to choose from it. So whatever you're trying to do out there, that's not part of God's menu. Don't bring it to the bed, because if you go to a restaurant, like I have said to you before, give the analogy, if you go to a restaurant, you want to eat certain dish, and that restaurant, you ask them, okay, do you have that? They said no, because it's not on the menu. You cannot order them, you cannot force them, you cannot sue them to make it for you. Why? Because you're the one who come to the restaurant. You cannot impose on them what they should provide or not. You follow what I'm saying? You can impose certain things if they said yes. They furnish that kind of stuff, and then you can't find it, and it's right there on the menu. That could be a different thing. But if it's not there, you cannot oppose them. Just like if you go to a university, a college, okay, you want to start a certain thing, and then you demand that you have that in the program, and the university, rector or maybe the registrar, whatever the name they have, tell you, okay, this is not part of a curriculum. We don't provide that kind of a curriculum here. You cannot impose them. All you have to do, you have to walk away. See if there's that program wherever it is that you need it. That's the reason why there are diversity of universities and colleges around the world, because every one of them different programs. Do you follow what I'm saying? And so in God's program, what I'm talking to you right here, it's not there. That's the reason why they call it an abomination, because it's not part of God's program. So don't come to God with your nonsense and trying to make him accept it, saying, okay, well, I love him, I love her. Well, that's your problem. Matter of fact, I've told you too, and I've been talking about the other books that I presented to you, that there's only 4 types of love that God talks about in the Bible. So I don't know where you find that kind of love that unite 2 men and 2 women together. Where do you find it? That's not part of God's program. So these are teaching. They're not ways, strategies to make you feel bad. If you feel bad, my friend, there's something that's going on in your life. You need to take care of it. But the intention is not here to make you feel bad. Anyway, so being an adult is a privilege. It's a privilege for you to be in a position for correctness, for righteousness, for rightness, for everything that is positive. Not to do wrong, not to use your position as an adult. That's the reason why the law is always put the adult in prison. Why? Because they recognize as an adult you should have known better. Do you follow what I'm saying? You should have known better. That's why they put you in jail. It's not because you violate the law. Although consequently violating the law can bring, certain pain, in your life, discomfort and all kind of stuff, and even money lost. But the whole reason they put you in jail is because it is this. You should have known better. Why? Because you're an adult. When you see a guy standing out there smoking, it's not an idea of, I really need to smoke. No, you don't need to smoke, my friend. You should know better that I should not smoking. Like I said, the cigarette company put on the label, okay, that this may cause cancer or some other things they put in there. If you read, you see it there. See, the government give you the opportunity. She is saying, okay, when you're 21, you can go and buy alcohol beverages. What about don't drink it at all? You follow? Well, I recognize also, I'm being part of that. I don't want to be hypocritical here. That there's certain medication that alcohol based. And some of those mouthwash you use, they're alcohol based. They use those because there are other things you can do alcohol. They use it in medicine, to cleanse your wounds and all those stuff. You understand what I'm saying to you? So I'm not saying banning it totally because of the fact that, it kills, but it can do some good. But you have to use it in the right way. So the idea of drinking alcohol, it doesn't help you in any way. Unless it is something, there's something about drugs. That's why you see some kids, they're addicted to some of those, and people. Why? Because those drugs, they are made for certain type of medicine treatment. That's why they don't leave it out there for people to put their hands on them. But they can do it a little bit safer to prevent, like I said, all circumcision, and not necessarily people will go out there and then trying to, get involved in, taking drugs and everything. So their addiction comes from a different way, not everybody. But there are people who are curious about certain things. They put in, those drugs in their system, either by injection, either by pill, or either whatever. So it's important because it comes to a point where, you get to a point in your life where you're suffering. So I think I'm talking to you because there's a way for you to move from that. There's deliverance. But it's up to you to use that faculty that God put in there called free will to change your course to do. There's no such thing about that. No, I can. God wants to deliver you. He will give you grace to come out of this. There are people, if I were to give him a microphone right now, they will tell you their testimony where they were like 5, 6, 7, 10, 20 years ago. And today they are delivered by the grace of God. Why do you think people go to the AA meeting? Why do you think they have a sponsor? Because they recognize this thing is really not good. But then they can continue living their life that way. But today we're going to talk about something else, and I'm going to read, like I said, please remind the viewers and about the kids, the young kids, not to be around for this lesson because it's very tough. The language we use are very not, for children. So we want to caution you about that before we proceed. The title of the lessons here today is "But for the Lawless and Disobedient." For the lawless and disobedient. And we find this, and we're going to see it there in this Bible passage, 1 Timothy chapter 1, verses 8 to 10. I think I've read that before in our program, so I'm going to read that today. And then we're going to talk about specific sexual perversion today called pornography. So that's what we're going to be talking about, and we will continue on that later on in the next program, okay? So this is the verse now. Here's the verse. 1 Timothy 1, verse says 18 to 10. But we know that the law is good, if a man use it lawfully. Knowing this, that the law is not made for a righteous man, but for the lawless and disobedient. This is where we took our title from. For the ungodly and for sinners, for unholy and profane, for murderers of fathers and murderers of mothers, for manslayers, for warmongers, for them that defile themselves with mankind, for men stealers, for liars, for perjured person, and if there be any other thing that is contrary to sound doctrine. 1 Timothy 1 verses 8 to 10. Father, bless this time right now. Bless your lesson that you're giving us. We're going to be talking about pornography. I pray that this lesson will reach the heart of people. We know this is a sin that in our lives, all over the place, Father, whether openly or secretly, mostly secretly. There are husbands who's been, really having so much hard time, to live life purely. Their wives don't even know about that habit they have, a secret place they go, spend money and get involved in those kind of lifestyle. I pray, Father, that you bring deliverance to them. Speak to them today, and I pray the Holy Spirit will work in our midst in order for us to articulate and to say exactly the right thing in order to bring clarity as we're starting this lesson. The purpose behind it as well is for education. It's not to hurt anybody's feeling or to put anybody down in any way, but if you can help in any way, we pray, oh Lord, that you will give us the strength and empower us to do the right thing and to love you, to honor you, and to live our life the way you intended for us. We thank you for everything. We commit this in your hand for us all this in Jesus' precious name for his sake. Amen. So we're starting pornography today. And pornography, according to Google, I always go to Google to find definition about some words that I bring to you. It says, all printed and visual materials containing the explicit description or display of sexual organs or activity intended to stimulate erotic rather than aesthetic or emotional feelings. Okay, so this is what they define. I really do not have any problem with this definition. This time I really think that they did a very good job anyway. I don't have any problem with it. But different, before we go further in the lesson, we must ask this important question at first. Is pornography, let me ask you, is pornography part of God's program? So we need to make sure that we understand that at first. So like we asked the question about homosexuality, is it also part of God's program? So we asked the same question about, pornography. Is pornography part of God's program? I think we must unequivocally answer no. No, because God himself is holy. Number one, God is holy. And because these verses above clearly denounce such a thing. So if you see how the verse goes, it says, especially verse 8 says, okay, but we know that the law is good if a man use it lawfully. But verse number 9 says, knowing this, that the law is not made for a righteous man, but for the lawless and disobedient. Okay? For the ungodly and for sinners, for unholy and profane, for murderers of fathers and murderers of mothers and manslayers. And then verse 10, it says, for whoremongers, for them that defile themselves with mankind, for men stealers, for liars, for perjured person, and if there be any other thing that is contrary to sound doctrine. So that's what it says right here. Okay, so we see the question we ask, is pornography part of God's program? We can see that there's no such thing there in God's program. There's no pornography. So based on the definition we talked about when we just started, we read it. You see that it's about explicitity of sexual organs, like men and women together. or maybe not together, but all these things they do explicitly so people can see them from an image standpoint, or either by movies or videos, or maybe by pictures and all those things. So we see all these things, being displayed. So that's what we're talking about. But is this part of God's program? No, it's not part of God's program. It all boils down to the same thing we were talking about last time, the idea of authority. See, what we're talking about when we say authority, when you see people get involved in those things because they do not recognize the supreme authority of God, God's authority over their life. They just only see things as if like they make their own decision, which is okay in a sense because you have the free will to do that. But the idea is, what about God's authority over this earth, over his creation, that says, okay, we do not, like I says, okay, the law was not made for the righteous, which means we're not talking about people who claim to be that they arrive. They're on the same footing as God. They have this, position where they're holy. No one can say that, beside apart God. God is the holy one, but you're not. You can just, decide, oh, I'm holy. And so you see that it was not made for it. So pornography was not part of God's program. All right, so we're gonna kind of like stop right here for a moment. We will resume with the program as soon as we can, because of the fact that where I'm sitting right now, it started pouring, so we don't want our equipment to get wet and damaged. We will be back as soon as we can locate ourselves in a better place and come back with the program. All right, just don't go away. Just stay with us. We'll be back as soon as we can. Okay. All righty. So let me do that, and then we will resume with our program very soon. All right, my friend.